Another terror attack at an ICE facility in Texas leaves 3 dead, including the shooter, and 1 wounded. Our Bradley Devlin joins Deputy Attorney General Harmeet Dhillon to discuss Antifa, and Democrat officials simultaneously ratchet up the rhetoric while calling for calm. I'm Tony Kinnett, host of the Daily Signal's Tony Kinnett Cast, syndicated nationally at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. This is the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Yesterday morning, a 29-year-old Joshua John fired a weapon into an ICE facility through a window in Dallas, killing 2 of the detainees and injuring 1 before taking his own life. According to federal officials, there were anti-ICE messages scrawled on the bullets recovered near the shooter's body. It appears that he was aiming for law enforcement and simply missed or was unable to tell who was a law enforcement officer or a detainee through the window, the way that the window is glassed over and fenced, and simply killed others in a collateral fashion in the process. Despite clearly being a politically associated act at the time of the information's reporting, several outlets made an attempt to hide that the evidence was rather obvious, suggesting that this could be some type of right-wing red herring, or that this was some kind of a right-wing copycat of writing messages on bullets and cartridges. Here's MSNBC with those takes.
But people emulating this kind of attack is certainly a concern. The irony with the writing, the first time we really saw that was Brenton Tarrant in the Christchurch shooting in a mosque in New Zealand, and he was a fierce white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds, very hateful information. So to see this coming from, potentially the other side of the political spectrum is a little strange, because it is not something, if you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff, I don't know why you would use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years by other white supremacists, why you would do that. But it does appear that people are moving in that direction because they want people to know what they're doing and why they're doing it.
After it became undeniable that this was yet another incident of left-wing terrorism in a very bloody September for the United States, representatives like Nadler out of New York pretended to say that he wasn't aware of any kind of attack on ICE facilities or agents at all.
Do you condemn the attacks on ICE agents?
What attacks on ICE agents?
Other Democrats in Congress, like Representative Chris Pappas from New Hampshire, refused to answer any questions at all about the political rhetoric.
Congressman Pappas, do you condemn political violence? Congressman Pappas, is it time to turn down the temperature?
Okay.
Congressman Pappas, political violence is only increasing.
Get away from the car.
Senator Ted Cruz of Texas went before media calling for the violence and the political rhetoric to end, talking about the number of crimes against ICE and Border Patrol facilities, which have occurred over the last couple of months.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the 3rd shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe.
The previous evening, Governor Gavin Newsom of California had gone on national television to articulate why he believed ICE was a fascist, authoritarian government organization that was disappearing people away. Here was Gavin Newsom.
That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process. No oversight, zero accountability happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country.
And then the following day, of course, there was the attack on the ICE facility. Vice President J.D. Vance took issue with this yesterday.
Because here's what happens. Because here's what happens when Democrats like Gavin Newsom did say that these people are part of an authoritarian government. When the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration policies. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies. But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell and you have no place in the political conversation of the United States of America.
Now, regarding the rhetoric in general, several Democrat officials, present and former, took to media to try to simultaneously suggest that the political rhetoric needed to be lowered while simultaneously accusing the right of being fascist deplorables, let's say. Here's Hillary Clinton.
We have got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right, coming from people who want to dominate. They want their point of view. Writing out slavery from history, that doesn't make it go away. We have got to stop with the finger pointing and the scapegoating.
And then some, like Democrat Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, just pretended that it was a gun issue and didn't draw any kind of political conclusion whatsoever.
Violence is just terrible. Everybody, right, left, center, I don't care what your politics are, has to speak out strongly against it. But look, I think, and I don't know what's happened here, and I don't know about the guns, but we need better laws on guns. I mean, we got something done a few years ago, but it's just rampant. And we have to do more.
Schools,
I'm the author of the Brady Law, the assault weapons ban. It's become almost every day one of these things happen.
Given law enforcement and Antifa reports that Antifa is responsible for many of these attacks against federal and local law enforcement. For example, the Antifa ambush of law enforcement that resulted in an officer in Texas being shot in the neck a couple of weeks ago. Of course, many Americans are now asking what the Trump administration plans to do after labeling Antifa a terrorist organization in order to halt terrorist incidents that have occurred throughout this year against federal law enforcement and innocent people, for example, in Christian schools. Our Bradley Devlin, our political editor and the host of The Signal Sit Down, sat down with Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dhillon to discuss what the Trump administration plans to do in combating this massive threat.
Quite a few trans people are in the Antifa movement. I don't think I had seen more than one trans person in my life in the wild until the Andy Ngo case. And as I'm researching these people who attacked him, we would use videos, we would crowdsource who they are. Several of them are trans. I don't know if it's the hormones or the fact that they're unhappy with their lives that made them good targets for this sort of anarcho-terror organization, but they are. And so they form and they have their little cells, they do their little things, and then they disperse. They have leaders who travel from city to city and riot to riot. So they have leaders. We were able to identify some of those leaders. Networks. And so Andy is really the expert on this. I would recommend anybody to read his books on these issues and his reporting. It's fascinating. It's a whole world I never knew existed. And frankly, for too long in this country, law enforcement hasn't done anything about it. And now the president has announced to focus on it. And so we have to get to the bottom of this because nobody is free if there are cities in the United States with terror networks and cells plotting disruption of our transit or blocking our way to our courthouses or ICE or the police or journalists literally attacking the heart of truth in our society.
We'll link the rest of that interview down in the description below. Before you go, head down to that same description to make sure you're also subscribed to the Tony Kinnett Cast. And join us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern for a roundup of the day's news and nonsense, along with a couple of special things that we have planned. I'm Tony Kinnett, and this has been the Daily Signal's top news in 10. Take care.